good evening, and a pleasant welcome to yet again a wonderful and exciting edition of your favorite program, Things About Men. As you know, this is a social, educative, informative, and interactive platform that brings out the realities and true nature about men. What are some of the things they do, they say, or even think when they are together just as men? And as always, we meet here every Tuesday at about this time to discuss wonderful, and interesting things about men. So wherever you're watching, this is Light TV and you're watching the program Things About Men. If you're on the internet, the outside of the country, watching us from Satcon or Walkabout TV, I'd like to say welcome, and we hope that you there are going to have a wonderful time with us. And as always, we come here with an interesting topic. And unfortunately, Emmanuel could not be with us here today, so I'm here with Abdul Karim Sharif, and today we have a very special studio guest, someone who has been following the show and someone who is a very open-minded person, and we have him on the show today. He's going to be helping us today to be discussing a very interesting topic. He's going to do most of the talking today, trust me. I'm not going to talk much, Karen is not going to talk much. And that's Ambassador Abbas Lakis. Hope I got your last name correctly.
Correct.
All right. Welcome to the program. It's good to have you here, sir.
Thank you so much. I appreciate this.
Yep. It's good to have you here. And the topic of discussion today, we're going to be looking at men and marriage, the importance of marriage. Why is marriage so important in the eyes of God? Why do God favor marriage so much? He's going to be telling us in depth, okay, doing a lot of teaching, telling us so much more about marriage, the importance of marriage. What happens if a man leaves his family, find a wife, and get married? This is exactly what we're going to be discussing today. So wherever you are, if you are watching us, still right to your television set, do not even blink, okay? This is the program, Things About Men. Abdul Karim Sharif?
Yes, sir.
Well, it's so bad I'm not married, you are, and and he is. So, Ambassador, once again, welcome to the program.
Thank you again. Thank you so much.
And it's a pleasure having you here.
Yeah, let me welcome you to the program.
Yeah.
We are so happy to have you here.
Thank you so much.
And before we go, let me say congratulations for your princess. I've been following you today.
You definitely have.
Yeah, so congratulations.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much.
It's good.
We hope to have a wonderful day here today with our people.
I'm sure we will. I'm sure we will. All right, looking at what we're going to be discussing today, men and marriage, or the importance of marriage. And you'll be an ambassador, you'll be someone who, like a teacher, who always discussing these kind of important things when it comes to God, the marriage, and hosting seminars. So it's good that you're the right person that we have in studio today to give us more insight concerning this. And probably, I'm sure Karen is going to add to it because he's been married, so he knows exactly what it's like. Yeah. So first of all, people watching, I would want to know what exactly is marriage. Talking about marriage, if someone wants to know what is, people know that you're married, but what is marriage? If I will ask this question.
Great. So marriage is an institution instituted by God that brings a man and a woman into a union with God.
Okay.
I like the definition with God.
With God.
Yes. And so if we try to talk about with God, you know, I may understand, but other people may not understand. So can we broaden it a little bit, like with God?
So think about an administrator of an institution. Okay. And somebody wants to participate within the institution. And the first phase is coming into contact with the administrator, but except this institution, you can't come one, you got to come two.
Wow. Wow.
Okay. There must be a man who we define as the proposer, and a woman the acceptor, and then there's the administrator that is the agreeer. So, you know, there is this popular teaching that marriage is between a man and a woman. It's not really true. It's between a man, the proposer, a woman, the acceptor, and God, the agreeer, that brings the proposer and the acceptor into his institution.
Wow.
So God is the governing force of the marriage.
Okay.
Wow.
So
That's
a great piece, guys.
Yeah, that's interesting. That's interesting. And I would also like to know what really constitutes a good marriage.
Well, the first thing is order. There must be order. Let's look at the basis of principles. Where there is a good marriage, there must be the order wherein God is the administrator. That's the first factor of the order. The second order is there must be a man as the proposer and a woman as the acceptor. So that's the order that dictates a good marriage. That's the first thing. That within that order are sub-orders.
Okay.
Okay. And one of the sub-order is that in the order of God, the man is the head. But there's a lot of misconception around this. The man is the head.
All right.
The man is the head is not necessarily talking about a pyramid structure where the man sits on top.
Okay.
Rather, the man as a head speaks more of a principle of the man being the foundation. In actuality, the head of a building is not the top of the building; it's the foundation of the building.
Yeah, sure.
Because if you have a good foundation, you have a good building.
Good. So that's where the knowledge is meant to be processed by that kind of wisdom to give the accurate interpretation. That the man is a head, meaning he's the foundation. So the man is the foundation, meaning that everything rests upon him. And I've come to discover that marriage in itself is really about leadership for both the man and the woman.
Okay.
But because the man is the head, the primary emphasis of leadership starts on him.
On him. What about the woman?
The woman, she's secondary, but she's secondary in the form that she is a reaction to his action. So the woman's leadership is tied to the man's effectiveness in his leadership.
Abdul Karim.
That
go ahead.
He's right, because that brings me to like when we're discussing once about marriage, and I said about this word in Islam called kawam. The man is kawam over the woman. He's active over the woman.
Okay.
So he's right. If the man is not active, how do you expect the woman to be active? How do you expect her to react? So he's 100% right. I go with that.
Yeah, like Newton law says, to every action there's an equal and opposite reaction.
But the principle goes deeper, and this is why I've come into this ministry of teaching about marriage, because you would think that to teach marriage, you would need age to derive and draw out of that experience.
And that's another thing that what most people think.
Good. But then there are those that God would choose, that He will endow with such abilities of processing knowledge based upon what we call regulation, spiritual knowledge being disseminated and given to us in our subconscious mind to process from a psychosocial perspective. Okay. And so now, what we see is that taking into consideration that principle, the man being the head, the woman being the secondary reaction to the man's action, you can liken it onto two particular things that work hand in hand. One, seed, the other, soil. Yeah. That in a marriage, the man is the soil, the woman is the seed. But you realize that you can't just plant seeds in any soil.
No. You cannot. You have to.
I'm very lucky right now.
I like this.
Yes. You cannot plant in any soil.
Thank you.
There are a lot of processes involved.
Exactly.
Observation.
That's what marriage, in its greatest understanding, is a mystery. And it takes one who have entered it and paid attention to it with the administrator of it to learn actually what it really is and how it operates.
Now, let me cut you off a little bit. Does that mean that counseling has nothing to do with age?
Counseling, yes. And, I say that, I know that a lot of persons that would, object and say, no, it's not true. You have to have age. No, you have to have understanding. And understanding doesn't necessarily come by years. It comes by your willingness to be processed by knowledge. Knowledge is able to process you if you give yourself to it.
That's a good one.
Wow.
Now, I know this is getting very interesting. Trust me, Yeah, and if you are watching, I hope you are understanding exactly what he's saying, because he's giving you, a serious knowledge or lesson that you need to learn. Now, I want to know something. Why is marriage so important in the eyes of God? Why God sees marriage so important? Why is that?
That's a very powerful question, and the answer is that. So now, you have to remember God's intent for creation. God's intent for creation is to create a creature in union with Himself. But now for God to do that, He has to do it in the order that represents His essence.
Okay.
And God's essence is He's a righteous God. So whatever represents Him externally must represent Him in a righteous context. So that means that if a man and a woman will produce an offspring, they must produce it in a righteous manner. And for that to happen, there must be a man and a woman being consummated in marriage before God. Now, marriage is important to God because marriage is God's program for his formation that brings to pass his intent for his creation.
Okay.
To progenerate, he needs a man and a woman. And that's his progenerational program. So, but he refuses to progenerate outside of a union acceptable in his sight. So when we have men who just becomes men, men who approach women just for the servicing of their lustful desires, with no interest in really getting married to them, right in the sight of God, that particular picture is not one that's pleasant in the eyes of God. It's a complete picture in error. Because what happens is that there are too many misconceptions that will end up being produced by that. One misconcept is this. The woman will no longer look at God because the woman looks to the man, and if the man does not see God, she doesn't see God.
She doesn't see God.
That's a disorder. Because in marriage, by the virtue of the union being consummated in the sight of God, the woman sees God in the man.
In the man.
But when we're just dating, and it's just our standards and in what we prefer, she will not see God. Not the way she sees God in the man. What many men also fail to realize, it is not a man's capacity to be able to do that makes a woman trust him. It's what the man trusts in that the woman derives trust from. So if the woman does not realize that you trust in something greater than yourself, then she can't trust in you.
That's brilliantly put. Yeah, I like that. It's brilliantly put. That's true because even yourself, you have to believe in yourself before you even go and meet the lady to say, I want to marry you, though. Because if you don't believe that you can take care of her, you ain't going to do that. And she looks at you like, this guy is not serious. How can he marry me when he doesn't even look like he even wants to marry?
Yeah, because
But what you're saying brings me to few interaction I have with few people. You meet few people, they don't believe in what they call marriage.
Sure.
Okay? Yeah. So it becomes hard to convince them about marriage. Now, like someone told me that, but God didn't tell us we must marry. He said man will leave his mother, he will cling on to his wife, and they will become one and X, Y, Z. He didn't tell me marriage is forced, so I don't have to marry. I'm not forced to marry. So if you were to meet people like that, or some of them are watching us, how can we try to convince them about marriage? That God really wants us to get into this, instead of just dating or just getting children out of wedlock. That wedlock is the proper way.
Wonderful. I mean, you see, life is about perspective, right? And some people have been raised within a perspective that's not of God. But yet they may exist in an environment where God is expressed by others.
Yep.
And if you're not careful, you will tell them something from your perspective that they cannot filter from your perspective. Because their perspective is very different. You see what I'm saying? So you have someone like that who either have been raised in an environment with an orientation that they do not believe in God like that. They believe in God in a passive manner. Maybe if they're a Christian or a Muslim, maybe they go to the mosque or they go to the church, but it's because that's a traditional demand. It's not the fact that I believe really, and I'm persuaded beyond all reasonable doubt that this is what I believe in. Now, if you find someone like that to convince them about the truth in the Bible, it becomes, or even in the Quran, it becomes very difficult because they just won't make sense out of it.
Yes.
They are fundamentally orientated by the worldview science.
Wow. This is very, very interesting. Very interesting. So wherever you are watching us from outside Liberia on SATCOM on the internet, I like to see you're watching the program Things About Men, and we are having a wonderful time here with Ambassador Abbas. He's telling us the importance of marriage in the sight or in the eyes of God. So we're about to take our first break. When we come back, we continue with our discussion, men and marriage. Stay glued. We'll be right back.
question on my land and you're asking me, who are you?
This moment, as you join in with us, God is going to dry your tears.
Everybody, I'm Bobby Valentino Zoe for the United States Liberian US-based actor. Keep watching Light TV. Peace.
Welcome back to the program. In case you've just joined us, you are watching Things About Men right here on Light Television on SATCOM. And if you're watching us on the internet also, I'd like to say welcome, welcome, and welcome. If you'd like to serve as sponsor of the show, we really appreciate it. Just locate at our Light TV office right on the Capitol Bypass next to the Central Police Station. The better stay, call us on the numbers rolling at the bottom of your screen. All right, we are still here with our special studio guest discussing men and marriage, the importance of marriage. Karim.
Yes, sir.
You've been married, okay? Before I get to the marriage, you've been married for a couple of years, if I may say. I don't know exactly when. So, how are you enjoying your marriage life? How is it? How does it feel being married? Tell me. Probably I might follow your footsteps.
It feels great. It's an enjoyable thing to do.
I know.
Yeah. You know, marriage, it's something you have to be ready and prepared for it mentally.
Okay.
Because if you are not ready, you get carried away easily by friends or by social media or things outside, and then you see yourself the next day like,
Drifting.
why did I get married? If I'm too young to get married, man. Like that. So it's something you have to be prepared for mentally. Once you're prepared for it,
That
you get there and you just see yourself flowing and enjoying life, you know?
talking about
Yeah.
being too young, I mean, let's look at it. Is there an age range? How set up for one to get married, for a man to get married? Like somebody says you should get married 20, 25, 18, 30, 35. Is there a special age range? Or it just has to do with maturity or something else? What
Yes,
do you
I
think?
mean, I'm of the belief that there is no special age range.
Okay.
It has to do with the fact that you understand the demand that you're stepping into,
Mhm.
responsibilities. And I don't think that we are doing a lot of teaching in that particular area as to when should a man begin to think about marriage and when and how should he prepare himself for it.
Mm.
You know, we have this seminar called Before Marriage.
Okay.
We have a dual seminar. One is called Perfecting the Marriage in Christ, and one's
Mhm.
called Before Marriage in Christ.
All right.
And we saw the need to go out there because we see in our society right now there are a lot of things going on.
Going on.
And in totality, the problem is coming from the fact that men cannot respond to the demand of the marriage, the relationship that they're stepping into. You know, and to be frank with you, an indisciplined man hates order.
Hmm. Yeah,
That's right.
That's a good one.
So you'll find undisciplined men running away from marriage because marriage has an order in it. And he's too indisciplined and unwilling to become disciplined, so he only dates. So, you know, the way Paul said,
You know, no, it's like, so what if I'm a young guy? Probably I just left 18. I'm approaching my 20. And I didn't necessarily I feel or I think that I'm prepared to marriage. To get married, I mean, I'm prepared for that. I mean, will I still be held back because of my age? Probably people will say I'm not that mature, I haven't reached the age to get married.
well, good. Now we'll talk about the issue of maturity. Let me phrase the question like this.
Okay.
As a young man,
Mm-hmm.
are you ready to become a soil for a woman to die in you and grow?
For the fact that I've agreed and decided to get married, many are married. I mean, many are. I'm prepared.
You know, sorry.
Yeah. You know, and this is what has troubled us, Korean.
Mm-hmm.
It's the fact that, you see, when a man gets married to a woman, you see, he wants to make the woman into what he desires. But that approach is completely off. You see, if you really understand the complexities of this picture that I've just painted of a soil and the seed, you will understand that the soil does not demand nothing from the seed. Rather, the soil only accommodates the seed. It is the seed that allows itself to die in the soil. Imagine, make a woman look at a man and say, you know what? I believe in you so much to the extent that who I used to be in the world, I would die in you to become who I need to be in God.
Wow, that's very sensitive.
He said that's a heavy one. But that is our reality. That's what marriage is about.
That's it.
So as a young man, when you come to the conclusion in yourself to say, you know what? I am a soil, and I'm not ready for a woman to come that I will accommodate. And my accommodation will be so influential in her life that will cause her to become what she needs to be in life.
But not what I want her to be.
And this even spills down onto the children. You see, the fact that the man's leadership, we said marriage is about the man's leadership. The man's leadership, I believe, in the eyes of God, first and foremost, has to do with his capacity to accommodate his wife, and in his accommodation, bring her greatness out of her. Why? If he cannot achieve that with her, he will not be able to achieve that with the children. Because the children now also become seeds that die in him to come to life in their greatness. So if he hasn't mastered it with her, and he begin to give birth to kids, there's a home now of seeds that need to die, but the soil ain't ready yet.
Wow.
There's a good piece.
So when would that soil get ready? You see?
He just struck a great point, all right? You see, it's not about readiness. It's not about being prepared. You understand? You might be 18 and say, I think I'm ready. Marriage is not about I think. It's far beyond I think. Because there are a lot of things, a lot of unexplained things that will go on. You have to be ready to take it.
To take it.
You have to be ready to make your home a better place.
Yeah, because I believe.
Be a good leader. Like he was talking about being able to influence your partner. You understand? You have to be, once you are that soil, you're ready. Like she's ready to die in you, like what he's saying. She sees you like a role model. She sees you like a role model. You understand? Then you don't have to demand that she serves God. She willingly serves God. You don't have to demand that she needs to act or dress in accordance of the Bible or your Quran or whatever. You don't demand it. She goes by it because it's in you. It's everywhere. You understand? So you don't force her to do. Definitely, if you force her to do, it's just going to last for a little while. And afterwards, the real her will have to show. And when the real her shows, forget it. That's where all heads become loose.
Wow.
Yeah. So it's not just I think. It's more than I think.
More than I think.
Yeah. You have to be sure that you are ready. Very sure. Not just 90% though.
100%.
For me, I see it like that.
I'll tell you something. So one day Jesus was teaching on marriage, and his disciples listened to his teaching. And when they finally understood the full responsibility of marriage, you know what they said?
No.
They say, you know what? It's better that we remain single.
Oh my God.
That's another thing. Will a man be here responsible for being single?
Not at all.
Even if he dies in Christ?
Not at all. But the thing is now, he is forbidden to experience sexual pleasure.
Because it's going to be done out of wedlock.
Exactly.
Wow.
So if you cannot control your desire, it's better you legalize it.
So let's look at some of the benefits that follows, after a man gets married. Yeah. If we look at the benefits, what do you think are some of the benefits that a man enjoys when he's married?
Well, I'll come to my life to talk about that for this particular question. What I have enjoyed is an increase in my capacity as a leader.
Okay.
To be multifaceted and understanding different dimensions of leadership.
Mm-hmm.
Because, right within your home, everything that you need to lead in life derives from
Right there.
right in your home. Because there's a mystery in marriage that says this,
Mm-hmm.
that the level of demand that God requires the man's leadership to grow to is equal to the complexity of the woman's complexity. So as hard to deal with as you think she is actually the call of your leadership. So there are men who just, run out and say, I made a mistake with you. You don't listen to me. You don't follow my instructions. We are not compatible. All those statements are being made from a man who cannot live up to his leadership call by God being expressed as a demand in his wife.
Abdul Karim.
The ambassador just, he struck the point, you understand. I've been following him, and he doesn't seem to amaze me, trust me. I'm always amazed whenever I follow a bit of what he does. His singing,
Oh, wow.
just to,
Oh, wow.
yeah, oh wow.
You
Yeah,
really been following?
wow. And he just hit it. That's it. If you can't lead the home, it's gonna be hard. And once you are a good leader in the home, you realize that one of the important things, you realize that when you go out, you don't just talk. When things are happening, you don't just jump up to conclusion. You learn how to listen, because you have a wife to listen to, you have children to listen to. If you have other people staying with you, you have them to listen to, and you have a judgment to make in a way that somebody's not going to see our father as being biased, though. You understand?
Definitely.
So you learn all that at home. When you get outside, people don't just do things and you jump into conclusion.
Yeah, no lies.
So you become wiser. In the home, you start to get wiser. The wisdom start to increase, and the way you talk, the way you dress, the way you just go about with friends and do things, it becomes less. So you start to see yourself as a responsible man. So everywhere you go, that responsibility will show in you.
Definitely.
Yeah.
Definitely.
I know that God favors marriage, and He blesses marriage a whole lot. He respects marriage, because sometimes marriage is next to God. And now what happens to a man who was not married, he had children, and got married, and what happens to a man who got married before having kids? I mean, are they on the same path when it comes to the favor of God? Because not being married, having children out of wedlock, and being married before having kids. I mean, do they have the same blessings when God is blessing those people?
I believe they have the same blessings. Here's why.
Okay.
The institution of marriage has benefits that are not based upon conditions of how you enter. They're based upon the fact that you entered.
That you enter.
Okay.
All right, I thought there were conditions.
So now, the only difference there is not in the value of the blessing, but is in the value of the work that needs to be done. For the father who got married before he had kids, we are going to assume that he's someone who understands he's a soil.
Okay.
His wife is a seed. The kids are all seed. By that, what he's going to do is he's going to begin to live by example. Because whatever he wants to see in his home has to be present in him. So he's going to raise his children in a way that depicts him like a reflection in a mirror. But the father who produced kids out of wedlock, who maybe did not grow in God at all, produced kids, and now maybe they're one's 15, and one's 12, and the other one's 9. They haven't heard about the order of us being like our father, right? And the father hasn't heard that he's an example to his family. So he's out there drinking, he's in all the latest drinking spots, and he's in the nightclub, and the 15-year-old sees that he takes after his father also too, because even in the absence of knowledge, knowledge is still true.
Yeah, that's
Sure.
It's still true that he will be the example whether he acknowledges that he is or he doesn't even know. So they walk after him. So now when the guy now becomes married and he becomes born into the knowledge of God, he sees his work. Oh my God, I have to rectify the 15-year-old, a 12-year-old, and a 9-year-old now. So someone's work has to be done for him, but the blessings are the same because God says, I am not a respecter of persons.
wow. Wow, this is interesting. We're about to go for our second break, and when we come back, we'll continue with our discussion. We'll be right back.
Hello.
Yeah, but my man, can I come and meet you, crush you on my land, and you ask me, who are you?
This moment, as you join in with us, God is going to dry your tears.
Hello, everybody. I'm Bobby Valentino Zoe for the United States, Liberian, US-based actor. Keep watching Light TV. Peace.
Hello to all my loving.
All right, we are back on the program Things About Men, still discussing the importance of marriage, men, and marriage. So wherever you are watching, this is Light TV, and this is Things About Men. We are here with our special studio guest, Ambassador Abbas, along with Abdul Karim Sharif. All right, before I get to the Ambassador Karim, I just want to ask this question. Now, you from the Islamic background. Now, I don't know about the mosques. Is it allowed or is it necessary that the imam, should be married before leading the people or not?
Well, it's not there as you must be married before leading the people.
Okay.
You understand? Imam is a leader. A leader God can favor a young person to be an imam.
Okay.
He can favor an elderly person. It's just another form of, it's just another leadership. You understand?
Oh, okay.
I could be an imam not being married.
Okay.
You understand? And I understand the Quran, I understand the teaching. Sometimes that calling, when you are to God, you're faithful, your mind is there, He calls you. Even if you are not, there are people who are in a club, they are Muslims, though they drink, and all of a sudden you see them like, they just change. Because God wanted them to pass through some, to be an example, like to be a better teacher to other people who are coming up. Okay. So it's not like to say a mandate that you must be a married man to be an imam. Okay. But it's good.
Okay.
It's good to be a married man to be an imam. It's wise enough because it teaches you a lot when you are in a married home. You understand? It has a great impact on your life once you are married and you know how to take care of your home. And basically, sometimes I see marriage as, like it's a government that God gave you to manage. Mm-hmm. And there are better government He wants to give you. And if you can manage that well, you understand? If you can manage it well in God, there are better opportunities, there are better government He's going to bring to your door for you to it's going to take time. It might take a day, it might take a year of hardship, how you go through it with your wife, with your family, how you cope with it. you see yourself leading people, leading other institutions, leading some religious group, because he tested you there and you pass.
You pass.
And you still going on, and he will keep blessing you like that. Yeah.
So, Ambassador, I reverse similar question to you from the Christianity side. Is it necessary, say, like a mandate that a pastor or a man of God leading the flocks of God should be married before leading God's people? Is that mandatory?
Well,
or?
yes. I'll say no and yes.
Okay, so
no to the fact that it's not mandatory that you be married, but there are levels of leadership in Christendom. For instance, the Bible speaks about if one desires the office of the bishop, he must be a man with one wife. It talks about how his children should be. I mean, it gives you a whole description of how his home looks like before he can step into that office and be given the chance to represent God at that level.
okay.
Yeah. But as an ordinary minister who may sit or preside over a ministry and a people, no, you do not have to be married. Like Karen said, and there are a lot of similarities, of course, in our belief systems. Personally, for me, I prefer a man who is married. But that's just my opinion and my personal preference. And that has been derived from the fact that I've seen my own life, first of all, you know, being processed by God in my marriage, turning me out into what I am now, the kind of perspective that I possess. I believe if, not talking about me as a person, but me as a principle, that if any men came into the level of life I've come into and understand what I understand now, our country, first of all, will be a very different place.
Okay.
Once again, I speak not about me as a person, but me as a principle. That when a person really gives himself to the institution of marriage and really fights for their family, you know, to deny all the disorder that is in man, to bring order from God in man, I believe when a person comes to that place, he can lead anything. You know, men will learn external things easier than he will learn about his internal self. Because the greatest war that we fight, many have said, is not the war without, is the war within. The adjustment towards that essence of perfection that one looks to and derives and say, you know what, I want to be like that also. So that's the war that we're fighting today in marriages, when men in our country, in majority, are failing at that war. And this is why we have the kind of society that we have right now, wherein you see children, but you don't see fathers.
Yes.
At all. Yeah. Where are the men that ought to show young boys how to be men? Well, they refuse to be men. They may age, and they may be in their 40s and 50s, but they have not entered manhood yet. Because they refuse the responsibility, because it goes beyond the fact that you have a wife and children, to the point that you have been called to cater to humanity exclusively in an entire nation. That your own life as a man is beneficial to an entire nation. But we don't see this responsibility over ourselves, so we live it anyhow. Like, listen, I used to do a lot of things, but when I realized this truth, and I have 2 sons and 1 daughter now, I realized that, you know what, I could either be selfish and do what I want to do in my destructiveness and destroy them in the process, or I can be sacrificial and be what I need to be so that I can build them up and produce a better country for myself and for them. So it's a sacrifice. You just can't be you and remain you. No, you got to be better than you.
That's true.
Yeah.
Because it's not just about you.
No.
You have to transform.
You have to transform
people.
You know, and I hear this excuse a whole lot. The truth is that there are 2 kinds of us. There's one of us that's processed by life. You know, you go through a lot of things, difficulties in life, whether it's from your mother, your father, your parents as a whole, your environment you grew up in, the war you went through. Life processed you. Okay, we agree. But when a man processed by life meets God, he has to die to the outcome of life's processes to come to life in God's process. This is where we find the war. We refuse to die to who we justify ourselves to be. You know, I'm this way because of this. So you can't take that. No, I can take it from you because that's not who you're called to be. You're not called to be the byproduct of your past experiences. No, you're called to be a divine identity that you were before you even came.
Wow, that's touching. That's touching.
Yeah, that's very, 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 very wise. Now, looking at the aspect of getting the marriage and seeking counseling. Now, what if a man finds himself in a situation where, like, he wants to get married? Is it always necessary that he should seek the advice of a pastor or maybe or imam before getting married? If he has an elderly person that he can seek advice from marriage, is that wise to go into that before getting married?
Well, okay, like, first thing first is that in Islam, before you, marriage is like a contract between two people. If they cannot come to say, I like her, I like him, you don't force them. Even though we see it happening, which is a tradition, not the religion, but the religion says that that's the first thing. They must agree willingly, not by force. That's the first thing. And the next thing is they should be able to observe each other. Like they have that period where you counsel them, and they have to meet. That plain wedding, she's there, he's here, the family people married for them, they've not met each other before, and then they come. Islam doesn't allow that. They should meet each other, and he knows that physically, whatever way, she's what I want. And she too know that that's the kind of person she wants. You understand? Because these are problems we see in a marriage these days. Many divorce because my mother forced me to marry him, or my father or whoever forced me to marry her. But Islam say no, don't interfere in their choices. But they can seek counseling after they've agreed that, okay, I've seen her, she's a good person. Then they can seek counseling. The family people can come around with the girl, they observe each other. Not two of them alone though. You know, you cannot put a hungry child beside the cookies alone. Definitely, he's going to be tempted to see that cookies. So that's how it works. Actually, they should go through counseling. But before that, the consent should be there that this is where I want to be. And I believe I love him, this is where I want to be. But it's good for me, I think. And I know it's good for them to go through that. Although our tradition normally oversees the religion. You understand? But if you're listening there, I think it's better for us to start practicing the religion instead of the tradition.
We don't have much time, but I'm sure you can make some points on that.
Oh yes, certainly. It's important, very important for the parties to seek counsel, because first of all, God won't come down to institute the marriage.
No, He won't.
God will use a representative, and the representative has to be the person that will counsel them. That person that has been approved by God to over a ministry represents God in such capacity. And that person has to bring them into understanding the laws of the Constitution. And one I would just quickly speak to, may not say much, but maybe some other time. You can check on my page and then find those teachings on that. It's the fact that there are a lot of misconceptions about marriage that the counsel time is supposed to bring clarity to. One happens to be the issue of divorce. And many of you will find it strange what I'm about to say, and because it'll be strong.
Shoot.
To the point that I'm writing a book right now that I was led to write called The Court, the Tradition, and the Church, Which Marriage Does God Accept?
Wow.
Okay. And I'm writing that book because of a lot of reasons, a lot of misconceptions. One happened to be the misconception around divorce. The issue of divorce in God, in all honesty and clarity and simplicity, is this statement: divorce is not possible with God. Not that you should not get a divorce, but if you get married in God, it is not possible for you to get out of that marriage, only on the one condition, that death comes to one party. But by an argument, by a problem, by something that came up, we have gotten through this with different people, pastors even, they come and give us all kinds of scriptures that they misquote and misinterpret. And we bring all other scriptures that put that scripture into its proper context, and we say, read it again. And we say, no. That's why even when you read the Bible, it gives you references under each verse to refer you to a place that gives you a wider perspective of the context this content is being given out of, to allow you to have a fuller and more accurate interpretation of what you're reading. People are taking scripture out of context and to the point that tradition, court. The truth is this: unless the judge in the courtroom is an ordained minister by God, he does not have the power to institute your marriage into God's institution. Wow. So you getting married in a courtroom, many of you are going to be very offended when I say this, but that's the truth.
That's another topic for a serious discussion, you know? Seriously.
And the other thing is, every tradition caters to a deity. So you can have a religion and a tradition, but in truth, the tradition is a religion.
Yeah.
Because it caters to a deity already. So when you get married by tradition, we see happening all around in our country today. This is what is prompting this book to come out. Because it's happening all around us.
It is.
People go to jump to say, you know, I'm from the Basa background, and in our tradition we get married like this. They don't understand. What they're doing is they're saying that whatever gods the Basa people worship,
that's what they still worship.
That's what we are coming to submit ourselves to with our marriage. But then they jump and say, you know what happened? Let's go have the wedding also. There's a confusion.
Yeah, there's a confusion there.
So we have a traditional wedding.
Yeah, and also
and the white wedding.
What is that? Too much confusion.
What is white wedding?
Yeah. White wedding is, you know what happens is like one minute you say, I'm going to serve this Basa God, and next week you know you say, Basa God, I got time for you. I'm going to serve the Almighty God now. But they don't know what they're doing, so they're doing something like robots without any level of consciousness.
We definitely have to find time to discuss that. The tradition, the court, and the church. That's a serious, very, very interesting topic to discuss. It's so sad that we are out of time. So, Ambassador, is there a way that people want to get in contact with you, that numbers, or how do they get in contact with your page?
Yeah, so you can find me on Facebook at Ambassador AMB, period. Ambassador Abbas, ABBAS, Lakis, LAKIS. On Facebook, I have my whole page there, or you can call me on 0777-555-606. Thank you so much.
Yep. Wow. Thank you so much. It was, I've learned a whole lot, Karen. I have learned a whole lot. Yeah, and definitely we're going to find the time to have you back here to discuss that particular stuff. Yeah. Thank you so much for taking our time with us.
Thank you.
Yeah. Karen, from your end?
Okay, I want to extend my heartfelt thank you to Mr. Lakis, Ambassador Lakis. Thanks for honoring the invitation for being here, and thanks for educating us.
Seriously.
And our people out there. You know, we need this kind of education, all right? And he always have seminars on marriages. He just read out his numbers. So if you want to get in contact with him, you want counseling, you can call him at any time or visit his page.
You know me, call me, I will come.
And you will also listen to his sweet voice and play his guitar and stuff like that. So, that's what it is. Today we discussed about marriage, and take it. You understand? Don't just listen. Don't be a good listener and not a good interpreter. You listen, you interpret, you live it, and let it to be part of you. And tomorrow we all will become better people, and we'll have a better society for the next generation. Thank you so much for watching. We appreciate you. One love to our family, one love to my little Dalila and Joshua. I love you all, and to my mother Fifi, one love.
Wow. And I'd like to say thanks to our guest, Ambassador Abbas, and thanks to Abdul Karim Sharif. And unfortunately, Emmanuel could not be here with us. I'd like to say thanks to all of you for watching, that always watching us. Our cameraman, Roland Tude, thank you so much. Our switcher, Flan Kai, thank you so much. And before I leave quickly, let me recognize and remember my friend all the way in Palestine. That's Sarah. She's always watching our program, Things About Men. I want to say, Sarah, thank you so much. Thank you for watching this program. And I pray that God bless you and that you continue to follow Light TV and follow this program. Until we catch you next week for another brand new discussion on Things About Men, my name is Paul Allen Wie, and have a God-blessed day. Bye-bye.